What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so I had a subscriber of mine uh, ask me to give my opinion on something, and I'd like for you guys to share your opinions as well. He wanted my opinion on how Dr. J would do in today's NBA. Now, I'm going to make the assumption that this is the same Dr. J from the 80s, okay? Um, Putting him in today's NBA. How would he do? Well, if you just magically drop him in today's NBA, then I do believe there's going to be a struggle period, a trial and basis period for him because he's going to have to adapt to the different. The game is different. Obviously, there's a focus on the 3-point line. When he was playing half his career, there was no 3-point. Well, actually, I take that back. In the ABA, there was a 3-point line. But then for a 4-year period in the NBA, there was no 3-point line. And then the last 7 years of his career, there was a 3-point line, but it was not really utilized much, especially before 1985. It really wasn't part of the game. Of course, I think when he retired in 87, I would make a guess off the top of my head that maybe teams took around 2 or 3 3-pointers per game. Today, that figures around 35. So it's a totally different game. And 3-point shooting is not Julius Erving's repertoire. I'm going to have to make the assumption that he still is a Westbrookian 3-point shooter as far as percentage-wise. He didn't take that many. Although I do have a theory about that with some of these guys. Like, some of these guys, I noticed that in seasons where they took more of them, their percentage went up. Same thing with Michael Jordan. In the years, like, for instance, Michael Jordan's a 32.7% career 3-point shooter, right? But in the years in which he took 3 or more 3-pointers, he shot 38.5% from 3. Same thing with Magic Johnson. Magic, I think, was like a 30% 3-point shooter, 30.6%, some percentage like that. But the years when he took 3 or more 3-point attempts, or was it 2 or more? I think it was 2 or more, excuse me. The years when he took 2 or more 3-point attempts, well, he shot around 34+% from outside. So there's that. So you can make an argument that if Julius Erving took more threes, maybe he could bump it up to 33%, but I still don't think that would be a big part of his game. Like I say, he still has to make adjustments. What's different about today's game? Well, of course, there you have the 3-second rule. So that could be advantageous to a guy like Julius Erving as far as taking it to the basket. But then again, you know what I'm saying, the game is different in many other ways. For instance, teams play zone now. You know what I'm saying? So where Julius Erving may have had an advantage one-on-one with certain guys, because Julius Erving was very athletic, obviously, right? Now with zone, I'm not going to say he's going to struggle, but it's going to be an adjustment. Michael Jordan had to make the same adjustment when he came back with the Wizards. He did fine, you know what I'm saying? He made the adjustments, and considering his age, considering how out of shape he was when he first came back, and the changes in the game in just that 3 or 4 year period where he was gone, I think he did well. Like I said, I think there'll be an adjustment period for Julius Erving, but ultimately, after one season, I think he would be great. I think he'd still be a phenomenal player. One of the things about Julius Erving, yes, he was not a great shooter, and people are going to focus on that. He was not a great jump shooter. But that didn't stop Russell Westbrook in his prime from being a great player. Um, Julius Erving is not a great shooter. He can knock down the mid-range jumper, but that wasn't his forte. But what he was great at, and one of the greatest players in NBA history, is finishing strong at the basket. Okay? Now you see how LeBron James, at age 39, when he gets ahead of steam and he drives to the basket, how it's hard and difficult to stop him. Well, imagine Julius Erving in his prime, 6'7". Now not as big as LeBron, obviously, 6'7", 215 pounds or so. So he's not as big as LeBron James, but man, he just had a knack, bro, for finishing around the basket. He had these huge fucking hands. I know I shouldn't curse, but I just had to emphasize that, man. He had these huge hands that allow him to be able to do certain things around the basket that almost no other player able to do. And, so that made him be able to finish in traffic. Same thing with layups. He could finish layups. He could finish layups on the other side of the basket. He could finish around traffic. He had a real great touch around the basket. Around the basket, Julius Erving was special. In full court situations, Julius Erving was special. So teams where he would be surrounded by younger players, when they're pushing the ball, the offense when they're pushing the ball, Julius Erving would be phenomenal. I still think he'd be a great player. I think great players make adjustments, but they will still be great for the most part. Julius Erving was a great athlete. He was a great basketball player. He didn't do single thing great, but then again, almost no player does every single thing great. You know what I'm saying? So, with no centers down low, come on, man. You talking about one of the greatest dunkers of all time? One of the most creative dunkers? Julius Erving be on the highlight reels every week. He could be dunking on somebody. He could be one of the most exciting players in the league. He was a decent free throw shooter, around 78% or so, right? Wasn't a great passer. Not great, but he was decent. He was averaging around 3-4 assists per night. He was a pretty good rebounder. And something tells me that he would probably get more, since there aren't bigs like, back in the day, like Paul McKeskey and Bill Laimbeer and, Bob Lanier, not all these paint clogging bigs down low. I get the feeling that he would be even better at rebounding. Like Julius Erving averaged around probably like 7 boards a game. In the AB, I think it was around 8. In the NBA, I think he would get a lot more defensive boards. So like how Luka Doncic does, how Russell Westbrook did, how LeBron does or did. So I think he would probably average around 9 rebounds. I would give Julius Erving. I give Dr. J, because I don't think he's going to have the ball like that. He's not, a point guard per se or a point. So I don't think he would get 9 assists, but I think he can get 3.5 assists, maybe 4 a night. But I think he get 9 rebounds. And as far as scoring is concerned, I think his efficiency would be decent. I would have him shooting around 48 to 52% from the floor. A lot of his baskets is going to be in the paint, obviously. His mid-range isn't going to be that great. Probably mid 30s. Maybe even low 30s. 3-point percentage probably be around 30%. But that's going to be offset by baskets in the paint, in the post. The field percentage is going to go through the roof in that area. So I would say he would average around 30. I give him 30. Because he's not a selfish guy. He's not a guy that's going to go out there and shoot the ball 25 times a night. I would give Dr. J around. I give him around 20 shots a night. I'm thinking he's making about 10, right? So it's 20. Then I think he'd make about 1.5 threes a game. About 1.5 threes. So it's 21.5, right? Then I think with his style, with his aggressiveness around the basket, I think he's shooting about maybe 9 free throws a game, making 7. So that's what, 28.5? So, yeah, I think he's scoring around 28 to 30 points a night. I give him that. He could, on a bad team, score even more than that, but he's not a selfish guy. You know what I'm saying? But I think he would score more than he did in the NBA in the 80s just because of the style of the game. I just think that he would score more because of the pace. And I know the pace was high in the 80s, but with the pace of today and the shooting and especially the lack of big men down low, like we don't have these big, huge Shaq, Kevin Duckworth. We don't have those types of dudes. So a guy like Julius Erving with the quick first step he had, and I just tend to see him getting a lot more uncontested dunks. I guess I'm putting it like that. So that's what I'm guessing, man. 28 to 30 points a night, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, maybe 2 blocks, 1.5 steals. Give me about 50% shooting from the floor, 52% maybe 52% actually. And 30% from outside, maybe 33, 32. And about close to 80% from the line. And, before I forget this, I think he would be a surprisingly great defender because Dr. J always gave effort on that side of the basket, on that side of the ball. And in a league where there's very little defensive resistance and guys don't want to play defense, he's going to stick out more for that in this particular era. He's going to stick out, whereas Dr. J was it wasn't exceptional for a guy to play defense virtually every night. But he's going to stick out like a sore thumb because of that. So expect him to be on more all-defensive first teams. And perhaps if he has a great season collecting a lot of blocks and steals, and if he has a lot of team success wherever he's playing with, a Defensive Player of the Year award wouldn't be out of the question. So that's how I look at Dr. J. No, he's not a great shooter, but look at him as a bigger, stronger, and more efficient and higher IQ version of Russell Westbrook. Minus the triple doubles, but more clutch. Now, in the playoffs, when the game slows down and every possession matters, I think there might be more games where Dr. J struggles a little bit, especially if defense is key on him. He could struggle at times, but I still think that he'll pull it through, and I think he'll be a great player. That's just my assessment anyway. Tell me what you guys think.